So welcome everyone, thank you for coming. I feel great that we're starting to build some real connected and intimate spiritual community here today on Sunday. And from this, from this intimacy and from this connectedness, more people will come. And also recognizing that some people will come and it won't be right for them, and they'll be coming, and people will coming and move through. We see that in my the healing work that I do every other Monday night, which is much more intense work. And it's not for everyone. And sometimes people come, they get a little bit of information, and then they don't come back for a while or ever. And sometimes they come back when they're ready. So it's all about allowing this to be as it is for me, and we're going to be talking about that today. So what I really wanted to talk about today, in moving forward with the theme of deepening your spiritual roots and growing your tree of life, I want to talk about some of the essential elements of the path, and also some of the really key obstacles. So one of the essential elements, it's something we've talked about before, but I just want to go into it a little bit, is the notion that we live in an intelligent universe, and that there is some sort of intelligence that is guiding process of the unfoldment of everything that happens, and that intelligence is encoded in each of us, and that we're all connected to that intelligence. And that's sort of an essential notion, and it's a notion that goes way back, but it's something that hopefully we can start to trust, that if there is an intelligence and there is guidance, then we can learn to follow that guidance. And we can start to settle in and trust that we are being guided, that we are connected to something that is communicating to us. And so from that comes the idea that our life is having a conversation with us, that our life is our teacher, and that every experience and every person and every challenge is communicating to us constantly. It's sending messages to us, and what our work is to open up to those messages and to be able to recognize them, and instead of separating ourselves from the challenges of our life or not listening to the guidance, to start to listen and to start to create meaning in our lives from each of the moments of our lives, each of our experiences, and to start to say, what is perfect here in this moment, even though it doesn't feel good, if it's a challenging situation. Where is the perfection in this? Where is the guidance in this? And what is this meant to teach me? What can I learn from this? And what can I learn so that I can grow? And to really start to identify and acknowledge all the people in our lives have gifts for us. And the notion that each person in our lives can be the face of God. And that each person, each experience, and if we start to realize that we're connected to everything in this universe, that we are connected to this universal intelligence, we can start to see the people and the experiences as the face of God, as the voice of God, as the face of Source, as universal intelligence, whatever metaphor that you like to use. And we can start to see the perfection, and we can start to trust. And oftentimes that comes from seeing more clearly in retrospect and looking at our lives, and it was hard when we were going through it. And I talked a little bit about my alcoholism and how that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, and I wouldn't be here if that hadn't happened. And things from my own life, like my parents' divorce, that I used to think was a falling apart, I learned later was really a cracking open for all of us and a liberation. And that there was nothing wrong that happened. And so as we start to look at our lives in this way, it's amazing that the things that come to us to reinforce that. So I talked a couple weeks ago about Plato and the myth of Ur, and the idea that we choose our parents and the circumstances of our birth that are perfect for the unfoldment of our destiny and who we are, and that all the challenges that we may be perceived as why didn't they see us? Why didn't they acknowledge us for who we were? Why didn't they love us unconditionally, or whatever those challenges were? Actually, there was a perfection so that we could develop, and that was a perfect start to our growth path and our path of liberation. And then we talked a little bit about the imago theory of relationships with Harville Hendricks. And that was the notion that the partners that come into our lives are similarly perfectly adapted, and they have perfect qualities that will trigger a lot of our unconsciousness to come to the surface. That we think that it's supposed to be easy breezy, and that we think that it's supposed to be not work, but the truth is that relationships are here for our own and for our partner's self-actualization. And that, again, the partners that come in have qualities from our parents, have qualities of our unmanifested gifts that we want to grow into, and that they have lessons for us, and to start to see partners in that way. And then, recently, there's a book that I was asked to read by a woman named Shefali Tsabari, and it's called The Conscious Parent. And I'm starting to try to prepare myself for parenthood. And what's amazing is that the message of that book, just like our parents, just like our partners, that parenthood is more about our own spiritual journey. And that the children who come into our lives are more about our own unfoldment than even about their needing guidance. That there's something that our children have for us that is perfectly designed, like our partners, like our parents, for our own unfoldment. And it's amazing to see. So if it's our parents and our partners and our children, it's everything, right? Everything is perfectly designed, and we're attracting things. We talked a little bit about the law of attraction and our vibration. We're attracting things from the vibrational frequency of our bodies, of our beings, matches to where we are, so that we can allow those things to come up in our lives so that we can heal and release them. And that we keep attracting our lessons that are appropriate to us now, and then in a year or next week, our frequency changes and new kinds of experiences. Or we have the option of not acknowledging those lessons and not feeling those feelings, and then we stay stuck and we're in the same relationship that's not working out, or we're in the same job that's not working out. So to start to see and say yes, really, to everything that's coming into our lives, and instead of saying, no, this is wrong, perhaps, yes, this is exactly right, and how is it right, and to open up to that notion. And then the next thing that comes from that is the idea that if we are connected to universal intelligence, then there is guidance coming to us and through us from our connection. And we've talked something about our spiritual center and connecting with our spiritual center in this moment in our bodies. And taking a few deep breaths and going into that place. And we can do that right now. I think everybody could always use that. So take a few deep breaths. Move out of our heads. Deepen into our centers. You can even put your hand on your belly. And just to try to deepen into our centers. And from that place, guidance will come. And what is really amazing is that guidance feels like excitement. That guidance feels like enthusiasm, which means literally to be filled with God, to be filled with Spirit. When I go within and I ask for guidance, the guidance comes in the form of feeling great, of feeling excited, of feeling passionate about something, of being directed towards something that I want, that I'm meant to express. Joseph Campbell uses the phrase, following your bliss. That there is no mystery to this. That we have been taught and programmed to disconnect from our center to the extent that we don't recognize what children recognize, which is their excitement is the source of their direction in life. I'm excited to go play football. I'm excited to go play with blocks, and that's what I'm going to do. And there's a natural process of getting excited about the things that are before us in our life. And also the natural process of identifying where we're not excited, where we're not enthusiastic, and where that's a red light. And to start to turn within each time we have a choice and to identify, where is my excitement? Where is the thrill? Where is the passion? Where is the bliss? And to start following that bliss in our lives. And to stop going to the places where there's no energy in it for us, where there's a red light. And so much of our programming from our culture and from our families has tried to teach us to do a certain thing, to be a certain way, to do something for a living, whatever it is, to make a lot of money, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. And those things are great if that's in alignment with your energy. And those are beautiful gifts to people if that's in alignment with your energy. But if that's not where your energy is, but you're forcing yourself because of some guilt, because of some duty, because of some programming, your life and your tree of life won't grow fully because you're not following your energy. So much of spiritual work is getting back to the basics of connecting with your center. And this is what my teacher Don Hansen talks about all the time. That we've gotten it so complicated because we've been lost in our mind, in our program and conditioned mind, about what we're supposed to do and all the shoulds and shouldn'ts that we have been told throughout our lives. But all of the guidance that we need to make all of the decisions in our lives comes from our center and from this place where I either have excitement about it or I don't. And can we commit to being loyal to our centers as we live our lives? Can we make a commitment today that our center and our excitement and our energy and our guidance, which is connected to the intelligence of the universe that comes through us, that is connected to all of the intelligence of all of the people and all of the beings in this universe, can we start to say, my highest loyalty in life is not to any exterior concept of what I should be doing, to any of my programming, about what my parents said, or my culture said, or my boss said, or my husband or wife said, if it's not in alignment. But how can I really start to live a life of following my bliss? And how can I really start to identify some of the stories that come up, and some of the resistance that we have, and some of the excuses that we make, that we all make, about why I can't follow my bliss. So that gets us to the obstacles. But I want us to first really consider, can I make a commitment? Can I make a commitment to at least start to turn within and identify our inner callings, identify our excitement, and also to stop making our excitement wrong. Because so many times we have been told, your excitement is wrong. Mommy and Daddy want you to do this, so if you're excited about that, or your culture says to do this, but if you're excited about that, that's confusing. And so we start to learn at an early age to cut off our excitement, to do what Mommy and Daddy or our culture or whoever is the authority figure that we introject, to do the things that we're supposed to do instead of the things that we love to do. And we really can't self-actualize unless we do what we're loving to do. We really can't be really successful unless we're doing what we love to do, what we're called to do. So the first obstacle, and this came up in a conversation this week, and I try to really listen about what to talk about based on what's alive for me in this week in my life, so that it feels as organic and energized as possible. So one of the people who works for me talked about his tremendous battle with the voice in his head, and that he has this constant flow of chatter, and it looks a lot like worry, like doubt, like fear, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I can't do this, there's a problem here. I need to analyze this. I need to resist this situation. It's not right. Something's wrong about my experience. And it's constant, and it's constant, and it's constant. And it's interesting that a lot of the great spiritual books, one of them is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, a great book by Adyashanti called Falling into Grace. The first chapter of those books is literally about the voice in the head. Eckhart Tolle talks endlessly about the voice in the head. It's pretty much our modern dilemma, and it's the first stop on the path to deepening. Because we think that we are the voice in the head. We think that's who we are. We think our mind is our identity, and so all of those thoughts have validity. We think that I am my thoughts. And so one of the great things in the book, in Adyashanti's book, he said he realized that at a young age, when he was a little boy, that grown-ups were crazy because they believed the thoughts in their head. He was able to, at 3 years old, look at the grown-ups in his life and say, it's crazy to believe the thoughts in your head. Look at what they believe. And so, what is the process? How can we start to disidentify from the thoughts in our head? How can we start to allow some space for the thoughts to come through us without taking us over? So the first way that happens really is that we start to say, well, who's listening? So who is noticing and who is listening to the thoughts in our head? Well, if I can listen and be aware of the thoughts in my head, then who am I? Maybe I'm not the thoughts in my head because I can listen to it. I can listen to those words. I can listen to those thoughts. So if I can listen to it, there is some space between me and those thoughts. So maybe those thoughts in my head and that part of my brain that is constantly creating those thoughts is not who I am. So the next step of that is, how can I step back from my thoughts and go into what many of these teachers call a witness consciousness, which is, how can I pull back and watch my thoughts and even ultimately my feelings, which is more challenging. How can I watch my thoughts and ultimately my feelings like they're the credits going up on a movie screen? How can I sit back in a movie theater of my consciousness and watch my thoughts with interest, but not have them take me over, not have them trigger me? How can I have some power of my own response to my thoughts? How can I have some ability to not let the conditions of my life totally control my reactions to those conditions? But how can I have some conscious awareness from those thoughts and to start to choose different thoughts? Because the reality is that the circumstances in our lives and the things that happen to us are not objectively good or bad. It's only our response to them, our thoughts about them, that create the power that they have over our lives. So it's another version of turning within and saying, I'm not going to try to fix my life on the outside to make myself happier. I'm going to turn within and go deeper into my spiritual center and start to watch my thoughts like they're moving like credits on a screen. And this is essentially the core of what meditation is about. And meditation for many people seems very mysterious and very frightening. And for those who practice meditation, it seems disconnected to many people from life. So meditation is just sitting quietly and allowing things to be as they are. How can I allow things to be as they are and be in a witness consciousness and watch the thoughts as they arise? What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to do later? I understand this. I don't understand this. I like this. I don't like this. This is good. This is bad. This is frightening. This makes me angry. This shouldn't have happened. I don't like that person. I like that person. I hope this person likes me. How can we start to take a deep breath and watch those thoughts? And then the next step, watch the way they make us feel. Allow those things to come up, but not let them take us over. So Eckhart Tolle uses a question that I think is very powerful. He says, can I be the space for this? Now, Eckhart Tolle is a very deep teacher, and you can get really lost in understanding this. But his notion is the truth of who we are is really the space, is really the emptiness within which form arises, and that's very hard to grasp. But can I be the space to let my thoughts and my feelings roll through like on the movie screen? And can I take a few deep breaths and look at those thoughts and decide which ones I want to pursue and which ones I don't? Which ones really help me in my life? Which ones don't? How can I allow the feelings that come up, to embrace them, to feel them? Because if we don't feel them and we push them back down, what we talked about the last couple of weeks is that we won't grow, because we won't heal these samskaras and the buried energy in our lives. But how can I allow even the feelings which are closer to us? Our thoughts seem more separate, but our feelings are hard, right? It's in our body, right? So how can we actually let it move and experience those feelings and start to live more naturally, like children do? I'm upset, I cry, it's over. I mean, women seem to, in general, and this is a gross generalization, and it's many times not true, are more comfortable crying. It has been a huge challenge for me to cry, but as I've gotten older and more connected, I have an emotion, I have a cry, and then it's over, and we have this natural processing organism, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. But every time we suppress, it gets stuck, and then our vibration changes, and then we're going to keep attracting things that try to trigger that. So what happens is, if you don't feel your sadness, you're going to keep attracting situations that make you feel sad, which sucks, right? So let's feel the feeling for the time that it's there, like a child would, and then they're on to the next thing. And then they're excited, and then they're angry, and then they're crying. So one of the very funny and simple exercises I would like to just say is, let's just say hello to the voice, right? Let's just say, hello, voice. Let's do it together. You ready? Hello, voice.
Hello, voice.
I'm going to start witnessing you now.
I'm going to start witnessing you now.
You are not who I am.
You are not who I am.
I don't have to listen to you if I don't want to.
You don't have to listen to you if you want to.
Na 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 na. You are not me.
You are not me.
There's something deep inside me that is way vaster and deeper than what you are.
There's something way vaster and deeper than who you are.
And all you are words on a movie screen.
Are words on a movie screen.
And I don't have to attach to them.
And I don't have to attach to them.
And look, our thoughts come from a few different places. The reality is sometimes our endless thoughts come from emotional expression that is needing to be released, and it's a way of releasing emotions without really feeling them. I start developing thoughts about it so I can have some sort of release instead of really processing them. And really all of thinking and all of the labeling that we do, the endless thought process, is really it's a control and defense mechanism. Because the world is so overwhelming in terms of the amount of input that's coming in, we decide that we need to create some space between us and the world, so we label everything. So we start to label chair, bird, And one of the things is we start to, as we're labeling those things, we start to disconnect from the magic and the beauty of those things. That's one element of it. But it's really just a defense. It's like, holy moly, there's just too much coming at me. I need some defense around me. I need some armor. I'm going to label everything. And I'm going to judge everything. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Is it pretty? Is it ugly? What is that person like? I'm uncomfortable not knowing what I think of that person or what I feel about that person. So let me just say they're not attractive. They're not well dressed. They come from a different culture. I don't like them. I can relax because I have them in a box. Right? That's what our thoughts are. That's what their thoughts are. All these defense mechanisms. So the next and the last major topic I want to talk about today is the idea of upper limiting, which is related to this incessant thinking, which is related to a lot of these stories that we tell. And so there's a great book called Taking the Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he's a psychologist and a teacher and also a business coach, been around for a long time. And he talks about the concept of upper limiting, which is that we each have a emotional set point, a thermostat, for the amount of success and love and joy and expansion and creativity that we feel that we deserve in our lives. And what he says is that there's a bug, to use a computer metaphor, that when we trip and when we go past that limit that we have set for ourselves, we trip this upper limit switch, and that we will do something to sabotage ourselves so that we go back down underneath that set point. And his message is he believes that that is really sort of the underlying source of most of our not getting what we want, not being who we want to be. And so, to start, I'll just talk about some of the behaviors that he talks about. And one of them, and the first one, is related to the incessant thinking, which is worrying. So I can just say this is a moment in time that I have unbelievable, amazing things going on in my life, on all areas. Spiritual, business, family, right? But the worrying is coming up a lot because I'm hitting my set point. I'm hitting my trigger point. Do I really feel like I can be successful and have the family I want to have and be expressing myself in the ministry? Do I really feel like I can have it all? No. I need to start worrying, thinking. And so I'll have a great experience, I'll come and do this talk, and then something will trigger me, and I'll start worrying. So it's like my enthusiasm and my joy reach this point, and then I need to do something to squeeze it back down. So another of the triggers is blaming and judging. Another way of cutting off the energy. Another example of this is arguing. So Donna and I noticed some time ago that on Sundays we were listening to Michael Beckwith, who is a great teacher who I really love, and he does church services on Sunday that you can watch remotely, and that was our spiritual community before I started doing this. And we noticed a pattern where we were uplifted, we were holding hands, we were snuggling with our puppy, we were joyous, we were singing with the choir, but then very soon after the church services ended, we would come up with something to argue about, right? Something stupid. And then when we were reading this book, we started to see, wow, we hit our upper limit switch. So another example has to do with Donna, and she was okay with me sharing this, which is sickness and illness and injury. So one of the things that Donna recognized when we were reading this book related to some opportunities that she had recently, and then looking back on the rest of her life, was that when she has a big opportunity to shine, in this case to be on national television, that she got sick, right? She got really ill, and it really changed her ability to perform in that situation. And then when that came up, she looked at the past of many key moments in her life. And one of them was when she broke a leg when she was about to get an acting job, and there's many others. And so the things that we think are just accidents are really not accidents, but they're of our own creation, because we're carrying, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't deserve this. This doesn't match my self-image of what I deserve in my life. So I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to worry, I'm going to argue, I'm going to blame someone, I'm going to get ill. So another example is integrity breaches. And so there's a lot of aspects of this. Bill Clinton is a famous one, right? At the height of his power, had an integrity breach. And so what he talks about integrity is that integrity is really just about our alignment to source energy coming through us. And when we breach our integrity, and we're going to talk about what we were talking about before, we pinch off the flow of energy into our lives because we can't handle it. And so we find ways to not be fully aligned and express what's coming through us. And sometimes it looks like lying. Sometimes it just looks like not expressing yourself. Right? So one way of pinching off the flow of well-being is to hold back your true feelings and not express them. That's another way of upper limiting yourself. So it can be in a relationship, in a partnership. It can be with anyone in your life to whom you have something to express. It could be that it's more appropriate for you to express it to a therapist than to the person from 20 years ago who you don't even see anymore, but you need to express it. And so what we were talking about before at Sandra was this idea that comes from the Gospel of Thomas, which was the later discovered gospel, which is, if you bring forth what is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you. And what that is about the danger of not expressing yourself, the danger of not letting yourself feel your feelings, of not expressing your truth to people. It turns into sickness. It turns into something that ultimately will destroy you. But if you bring it through, all of the energy of the universe opens up and comes through you, and a new major expansion will happen in your life. And going back to the listening to your energy, synchronicities start to show up. I follow my energy, I express myself, right? And I follow that excitement, and then things start to unfold. 1,000 invisible hands come to my aid. When Donna and I were dating at first, we broke up for a while, and about 5 weeks later, I had this calling to just go out to dinner with a friend in this part of town, downtown. Donna was out with her friend in the same part of town, downtown. I was out hailing a cab, and literally she had an inner calling, I got to get out of this bar right now. I got to get out of this bar right now. And so she got out of the bar right now, and I was standing on the corner. And it was a little awkward. But from that, I reached out to her, and from that I asked her to marry me a week later, and from that we're here together. But it was that following. It's that expressing. It's that allowing the energy to move through you instead of pinching it off. So even not following your bliss is a form of an integrity breach, which is I clamp down on the energy because I don't believe I deserve all of it. And some other behaviors, addictive behaviors, I'll just say right now with all of the amazing things happen, one of the things I've been doing is eating poorly sometimes, stress eating or whatever, because I don't really feel like I deserve to look great and be healthy while all this success is happening. Because something has to be messed up, right? I got to be out of shape. I got to be at least flabby because too many good things are happening. There's got to be some balance because I believe there has to be a limit on my success and my joy and my happiness. So at least what will happen is my pants will be too tight, and then I have a great excuse for obsessing about my weight and feeling bad about myself. Perfect. The upper limit has won. Right? Now I don't have to feel great about my life. So some of the stories, we'll talk about some of the stories and some of what comes through. But what he talks about in the book, there's basically 4 major areas of stories, and then we're going to ask about your stories, and then we're going to open it up to everybody. So he talks about that there's these core beliefs that are really underlying, which are limiting beliefs, and they're categories of beliefs. And he said everyone has at least one or two of these, and I certainly do. So the first one and the most essential is that we're somehow fundamentally flawed. You know, Bradshaw, the psychologist, would use the word toxic shame. There's something wrong with me. There's been something wrong with me from the beginning. My parents told me there was something wrong with me. Somebody told me there was something wrong with me. I wasn't perfect the way I was. I needed to do this. I needed to do that in order to get love. So therefore, I am fundamentally flawed. And so to start to see how does that resonate with you, which is there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. Some of those that's really this basic one that I don't know anyone who doesn't have some version of that. But that's where a lot of these behaviors come that are associated with our trigger for our upper limiting. Another one is that somehow we will be disloyal to our community or our family if we are more successful than they are, if we're happier than they are, if we have a happy marriage, if we have a career that is not all drudgery but that is thrilling to us, if we make more money than our parents. That's a big one. I've heard many people who had to make sure in their lives, for whatever reason, that they didn't make more money than their parents did, than their mother or their father, that there was some threshold that they felt, in order to be respectful and to still be a part of my family, I can't make more money than my family did. That there's some level of disloyalty going on. Another one is that I'll be a burden, and that I was a burden my whole life, and that people needed to support me, and then I'll be more of a burden the more successful I am. And that is not personally one of mine, but that's something that I've seen in a lot of people, that they feel it's better not to be successful because then it'll be weighty and a burden on other people. And the last one is I can't really shine or outshine someone in my life, because if I do, then again that there's a disloyalty. So I can't be all that I am. I can't outshine. People with successful parents often have this, right? I can't be more successful. I can't shine with all of my light because somebody in my life needs to be the star of the show. And so if I'm the star of the show, I have gotten subtle cues my whole life. No, I want you to succeed. I want you to shine, but I don't want you to shine more than me because that makes me feel insecure. To start to see parents and the way we treat other people and the way we treat partners, is that coming up at all? Are we needing to limit the other person in our lives so that we don't feel insecure because we don't want somebody who's close to us to outshine us? And to the extent that that's been done to us in our lives, that has kept us small. So to start to think about some of these, some of them may be accurate. Again, all of them won't be accurate for everyone, but I think there's something in this, hopefully, for everyone. And then I just wanted to ask, what are your stories? What are your stories about why you can't be happy and joyous and successful and have literally everything that you want in your life? What are your stories about, I can have this much, I can do this much, I can be this much, I can feel this good, but past a certain point, I don't trust it, I don't believe in it, I can't handle it. So for me, one of the stories was, I can't make a ton of money doing what I love. So I can make good money, and maybe even a ton of money, but not doing what I love. Doing what I love is not practical. So let me make a ton of money and forego doing what I love, because making a ton of money is important. So it's one or the other. Or if I do what I love, which is another whole flip on this, and a lot of this happens for people who are following their dream. The other side of this is, if I do what I love, okay, but I'm not going to be able to make a lot of money doing it. So I'm going to have to shrink my life because I can't really do what I love and make really great money doing it. And so we all have stories like that, but that one is very compelling. And I've seen a lot of people with that one. I've seen a lot of people who have left jobs right, to pursue their passion, a lot of them because those are my friends in the spiritual world, but they have a belief, and then the belief comes true, that they can't make money following their, in this case, spirit being a spiritual teacher or being a healer. And so that comes to pass. They attract that. Okay, you're right, universe says, you won't make a lot of money. And so there's a limit, there's an upper limit on my ability to be successful because of these beliefs. So, as hopefully with every week, I just want to open up to all of you. If anybody wants to share anything that was triggered by this, and it's okay if you don't, about your endless thoughts, the voice in the head, about, go ahead.
I have a handful of things, and I was thinking of writing them down. But first, when you talked about the thoughts in the head, I've really been enjoying my inner thoughts lately. And it's on purpose. I've been working at it. And so the question then comes, do you choose to then believe those thoughts? Because those I like. So it makes a little more sense than the ones that we don't like, right? So I guess, what's your thought on that?
So, look, there's two ways to look at that. As an ultimate truth, all of your thoughts are fictions of one sort or another. Everything that I'm saying, and this is sort of like, is just a pointer to a truth and is not really true, is just a thought. And nothing that I'm trying to describe can be described through the words that I'm expressing. But that's really sort of deep and hard to grasp. I think the reality is, to be very simple, and teachers like Abraham Hicks are perfect at this. How does the thought make you feel? And I want to feel great more of the time in my life. And so when I'm feeling great, I'm attracting more things that will make me feel great. So I want to be thinking better feeling thoughts. And when I'm thinking a thought that makes me feel poorly, how can I step back, have some witness consciousness, and how can I allow those things to pass through me? And then how can I start to change the way I'm thinking about the situation so that to things that raise my vibration because they start to feel better? And that's one of the core essences of Abraham Hicks' teaching, is how can I change my energy by thinking better feeling thoughts? But at the same time, it's important to not completely attach to those thoughts either, because those thoughts are also only temporary. They're great for changing your energy. But to get out of the habit of being identified with your thoughts in general. And one of the things that I didn't talk about before about meditation is to start to think of your life as as living your life in meditation all the time. That instead of meditating for 20 minutes in the morning, if you even can develop a practice like that and saying that's when I'm meditating, but then the rest of my day I'm back in my head, to start to say, how can I develop a witness consciousness, a consciousness of, can I be the space for this? Can I allow things to be the way they are? And can I take a few deep breaths every time something happens that triggers me, so that I can return to that center? And that I can, I'm walking to the subway, I'm in a meeting, I'm in the grocery store, I'm triggered, take a few deep breaths like I'm sitting and meditating, and that I'm living my life as a meditation in that witness consciousness.